This is my presentation, How Teachers Can Help Students from Single-Parent Households in the Classroom by Adriana Coda, EDSP 432, Fall 2018. So, why is this important? Well, as educators, we need to understand how single-parent households can have effects on their children's academic achievements. It's important for us to know this so we're able to provide resources for these students that they might be lacking at home. Although single parent households are not detrimental to the child, it is important to become aware of this so we can help them out, all right, to avoid these effects that I will further explain. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to 1. Understand certain effects single-parent households can have on academic achievements. 2. How to create a safe space in your classroom. 3. How to go about these situations professionally. And 4. How to integrate these activities into the curriculum. So the main question is, can single-parent households really affect academic achievement? So I think this topic is overlooked. Of course, 2 is always better than 1, and this is especially true when it comes to parents. I feel often we don't really pay attention to single parent households. Every situation is different, but they can all have similar effects on overall the child's academic achievement, and we're going to be looking at those effects in the following slides. The main effects I chose to talk about: 1 is stress, 2 behavioral problems, 3 low grades, and they all go together. All right, I would compare it to a domino effect, so they all affect each other. So the first thing we're going to talk about is stress. So single-parent households can be very different. I am going to mention this a lot in this presentation. Every situation, every family is different, okay? Whether the parents get divorced, one is incarcerated, or deceased, all of this can lead to stress on the child, and this is very important to understand. Even though each situation is different, they can all ultimately lead to a stressed child. Stress can be caused from constant worrying or even from not being able to talk to their parents anymore to not cause them any more stress, right? So the child doesn't want to stress out the parents. I have this quote right here. Children might then become alarmed at the impact of their distress on their parents and learn to refrain from expressing their sadness or seeking solace. Stress can be shown when children are in blended families as well. So, a single parent getting remarried. It threats to emotional security imposed by new siblings and parents, changes in family rules and power structures. So we basically get the child out of their element. They were used to a certain structure, they were used to a certain agenda. Now that they're in a new family, it all changes. This can all be a little too much for a child of any age to handle, okay? A different environment. Being aware of this is important. Creating a safe space in the classroom can help out with the stress, all right? Bringing in a school counselor and making all these resources known is very important. It lets students know that they're all alone, and that's our main goal. We want to build a relationship with our students. We want to make sure that they know that we're here for them to talk to, and the counselors are as well. So, behavioral problems. During my research, I've learned that most behavioral problems stem from a single parent household that have one parent incarcerated. So having a parent at home and the other incarcerated can lead to higher suspension rates for the child. Children ages 12 to 17 who live with just one parent or a guardian are at a higher risk of school suspension than their peers who live with two parents. I did mention in previous slides, every situation, see I told you guys I mentioned that a lot, every situation and family are different. When assessing a situation, please be conscious of the student's background and take time to talk to the student and figure out why they are behaving a certain way versus simply suspending them. So, of course, if the student has been suspended before, if you look in their record and you see that they've been suspended, they get detention all the time, suspending a child or student, I would say, suspending a student, it's not going to help them. It takes them out of the classroom, and we don't want that. We want them to be in the classroom to learn and to collaborate with all their other classmates. So if a situation does happen in a class, I would suggest taking that student out, being like, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? Like, why are you acting like this? And get to know them, make them know that you care. Because if you suspend them, they're going to be like, okay, well, she suspended me just like my other teachers, so she's the same. All the teachers are the same. That's what I'm trying to get across. All right, and those two factors lead to low grades. So like I mentioned in the stress slide, they're going to be stressed, they're going to be focused on what's happening at home, what's happening with their mom, what's happening with their dad, or the situation, and they're not going to be focusing on their work, their homework, and their overall academic career. All right, being suspended takes them out of the classroom, makes them lose class time, they're going to fall behind in homework, tests, everything. So single parents have the stress of trying to balance home and work, okay? Of course, if they are the only person working at home, they might not have time to help their children with homework. And then I have this quote here: single parents have less time for enriching activities. For example, reading, reading a book with their child, reading along with them, talking about their day at school, what they learned, or even just helping them out with homework. And then children of single parent families, when compared to children of two parent households, have a slightly significant increased risk for poor academic performance. Being aware of this can help develop a way to help these students in the classroom, which of course we're going to go over some activities, what we can do to help these guys out. Oh, so let's take a closer look. I did find a great video online that will give us a different perspective. So let me just read off the slide. I'm showing this to help clear anything up that may have been confusing and or when unanswered. I especially like this video because it does include short interviews from students themselves. So it does give us a different point of view, because right now we're looking at this presentation as educators, teachers, principals. So we want to see how the kids are doing, right? So let's watch this short video.
The family structure of an adolescent can truly affect their social and emotional growth. Households of divorce, remarriage, and cohabitation are growing in the United States. While two-parent households are on the decline, 20 to 25% of teens will experience many problems because of divorce, including depression, suicidal ideation and attempts, low self-esteem, difficulty forming intimate relationships, and defiance of non-compliance. Single-parent homes can also have long-lasting effects on children and adolescents, like lack of self-esteem, poor behavioral skills, poor academic performance, and are more likely to use alcohol or drugs. Children from broken homes are almost 5 times more likely to develop emotional problems than those living with both parents, according to research done by the Department for Health. The report says the odds of developing an emotional disorder were increased for children where there had been a change in the number of parents between surveys from 2 parents to 1 parent compared with children and young people in families that had 2 parents at both times.
Well, growing up in a two-parent home, it affected my social and emotional development by, I was very confident and strong in what I believe. Like, if someone wanted to argue with me, like, I could argue back and win. But I was able to love people and I was able to trust people, but with regard.
Okay, well, growing up, my parents divorced when I was 5 years old, and I was kind of too little to understand, like, what that meant, what was happening. So it didn't hit me till I was about 10, 11, 12, when I really had trust issues with people. I didn't trust adults. I felt caught in the middle of everything. I just couldn't trust people. I only trusted myself. So that led me to have a lot of, problems. I failed a lot because I wouldn't let people help me. And, I've had a lot of attachment issues, a lot of trust issues. I thought everyone was lying to me. Everyone had it out for me. And so pretty much it took a long time to overcome that. But, now I look back and, I'm thankful for everything I've had in my life. And I'm thankful for every experience that I've had.
By the age of 8, both of my parents, my biological parents, were divorced. And so I literally had to deal with that up to that young age. After that, I came to the United States and I started living with my mom. This way, it affected me because not only did the separation between them help made me a little bit more, I guess, held a little bit of resentment and also kind of on a defensive side towards meeting new people because of my father was being abusive. And so over time, my social skills weren't all up there. I was always having trust issues as well with certain people, and the kind of crowd that I hanged out with didn't help in the matter. At first, I didn't want to admit it, but I realized that one way to deal with problems is not running away from them, but dealing them head on. And later on, I came to realize that also putting your trust in God helped tremendously.
Each of these were examples of different teens growing up in different households. Adolescence is an important stage of development in which the actions of parents can have the ability to affect their view on not only themselves, but their view of the world as well.
Alright, so I hope that video helped clear up any unanswered questions or if you were a little confused. And I do like how it did include those interviews from the kids because it lets us see how they were feeling, what they went through. So now we go on to what can we do? Alright, so we've discussed the effects. How can we help? First things first, this is one thing that is very important to me. Get to know your students and the parents, all right? And you can do something simple. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Simply pass out short surveys in the classrooms and some take-home questions for the parents. The questions for the students can be something along the lines of, do you do a lot of reading at home? How much time do you spend on homework? You can also ask, do you have someone at home that can help you with homework if you have any questions, stuff like that, all right? Anything that will help you think of activities and ways. We'll talk about that later, but it's all for you. So it doesn't have to be these questions, anything that's going to help you understand the students and the parents. And some questions I developed for the parents. Do you have time to read with your child? Does your child need extra help in certain subjects, right? So, for example, if a parent knows that their son is struggling a little on math, all right, so now we know that, we're going to work on math. Same thing with reading, same thing with science. And I also want to make it clear, and if you do use this in your classroom, I think it's very important to go about this professionally, all right? So please make it clear to students and parents and students that we aren't here to judge them on if they read with their children, if they help them with their homework. That doesn't matter. Every question should be answered honestly in order for us to help them. All right, we need to make it clear that we're not going to judge them. It's for us to help them. All right, so a continuation of that slide. Once we collect the surveys, the questions, we're going to get down to business. Okay, we're going to look at two things. In this example, we're going to look at who needs more reading time, who needs more studying time, right? A little extra studying time. Something else we can do is conduct short evaluations in the beginning of the year. So how they are academically at the beginning of the year, and then you can also do one at the end of the year as well. And then we can bring in a school counselor or even talk to the students yourself that we are here to help them. We're here for them if they need something, if they need to talk about something. We have to make it clear to the students that we're here to help them and we do care about them. So now that we have all this information collected, what are some activities that we can set up to help the students, all right? So now for the presentation, we're going to get up, move around a little bit. Let's collaborate. So I want you guys to think of 1 to 2 classroom activities and discuss with a colleague after you figure out what you kind of want to do, all right? And then in the next slide, I'll kind of discuss of some activities I was thinking about, all right? Right, so I was thinking of tutoring, reading logs, monthly meetings with counselor or teacher, reading sections, and group projects. And let me just talk about these guys for a little bit. So tutoring. So, for example, from those surveys, if we get a couple of kids that don't have anyone at home to help them with homework, their parents don't read with them, they can't help them because they're not able to, which is something I understand. And that's why we do this, so we can figure out, all right, so let's set up some tutoring meetings. Monday, Wednesday, everyone who's bad at math, they're struggling at math, stay after school, maybe come before school. We can always figure out what time is more convenient for everyone. Reading logs. If parents aren't able to read with their child, that is fine. We can't force them to. We can't change your schedule. So a reading log can show the students that it's okay to not have someone to read with you. You can read by yourself, and to make sure that they're actually reading and understanding what they're reading. At the end of each week, we can provide some 3 to 5 critical thinking questions. They can answer, and we can see if they actually understand what they're reading, if they have any trouble, stuff like that. Reading sessions would be based in the classroom, and it would involve everyone, not just the students who are struggling. So it does go into that core curriculum right there. And group projects can help the students collaborate with each other, not just with the teachers or the counselor, with each other. So if they're having some problems, struggles with homework, they can ask their partner, they can ask their group, hey, how did you get this? Can you explain to me what happened? And then we can always talk about that in the classroom. And then monthly meetings with counselors or teachers is more for their emotional and social well-being. So if bullying's happen, if they're feeling stressed at home, if they're feeling sad, anything like that, we can meet with them monthly to see how they're doing and how it's affecting their school and their grades. And if that is happening, of course, we have to contact the parents. But these are some activities that I thought of that could be very helpful. So the summary of this presentation, we became aware of student situations. Oh, sorry, I worded that wrong. So, becoming aware of student situations can benefit the students and ourselves. Building a relationship with your students can help sidetrack any of the effects of a single parent household. So, stress, grades, suspension rates. Once we get to know that, we build a relationship with the students, we can sidetrack any of those effects. And using the information gained from evaluations, meetings, etc. to your advantage to develop fun and helpful activities for students. All right, so if you guys could please answer these 3 questions for me, just so I can see if you learned anything at the end of this presentation, if you are going to incorporate this in your classroom. And we are passing out some handouts, so you guys can fill these out. When you're done, just pass them up to the front, okay? Oh, all right, and we're almost done. So for more information, it was hard for me to find local centers, but I do like the single mother grants, but I will talk that will be the last thing I'll talk about. But Kid Count Data Center is a website that breaks down and goes a bit more into detail about single parent households and their students. However, it also shows you how many single parent households are in your state or even in your county, I believe. So that does put it into perspective of how many single parent households are actually in your state. So yeah, feel free to check that out. It's very, very cool. And then Single Mother Grants is a website that assists single mothers. So it does provide them with information for food stamps, medical insurance, I believe counseling as well. So this is a very handy link to keep bookmarked if you want to copy it down and share the link with someone that you think may need it. It is very helpful, so please check that out. And that brings us to the end of my presentation.